Pandawans and journeymen walking that illustrated path. It is another Saturday night drawing video, and tonight we feature the Iron Rose. So this was another example of one of my D&D characters. Iron Rosie was her name, making her way into my art, my videos. She was a warrior that I played, I don't know, a handful of sessions, but she met a brutal and ignominious fate. So this here is a tribute to her. So actually, metal alert for everyone. The name Iron Rose reminds me of the song Iron Road, which was a killer tune by Dee Snider's band, guy from Twisted Sister. His band after that called Widowmaker. Yeah, check them out. It's a great tune, the Iron Road. They have some other awesome ones too. Widowmaker, Calling for You, like great metal tunes. You know, when you're ready to ride down, rock and roll style, that illustrated path. Okay, so let me show you this picture here. This was one I sketched, what did it say, 2015? Yeah, Iron Rose, that was my character. So you can see, you know, rose motif, big badass, brutal, you know, warrior woman here. Now, she was originally based off of a character named Charlotte, right? Do you guys know who that is? Well, Charlotte was a character from Samurai Showdown, or Samurai Showdown, as it's spelled. They left out the W. But yeah, Charlotte was like this, move that out of the way, sorry. Was this just like, I don't know, beast of a character. She was like super overpowered, in my opinion. Which is funny because in this image here, the character on the right is Seeger, right? He was this guy, armored lower torso, just bare upper body. I would have added like tats or something like that. But he had this big metal arm that would like fire a blast like a gun, right? So whenever someone would play Charlotte, I would pick Seeger. And he was one of the only characters I could play that could beat Charlotte. And it wasn't often. I'm talking to you, Brother Roman. Hail to Brother Roman, one of Blizzard's great artists from the Path, who was just a monster when he played Charlotte. We worked together for like 20 years, and he says he watches these videos with his kids and stuff. So hail Roman and kids. All right, so let's get rid of this art, and let's go with how we start this all out, just like the previous video. It's a simple shape. This time it's the female shape. And this female shape is not your standard one. This is a bruiser, right? You know, muscly and buff, and, you know, looks like she could do some damage. I don't mind the like skinnier female characters, but if I'm creating like a warrior woman, I don't want it to be some, you know, skinny ballerina with an exposed tummy, you know, just massacring 20 orc grunts, or, you know, depending on the genre, you know, U.S. Marines or whatever. That's cool for an action movie and all that stuff. But when I'm creating a warrior, I want it to be built like a warrior. Now, again, like I said in the other video, a slimmer figure, that'd be great for like a stealthy road, or, you know, a singing and prancing bard type character. But this is the Iron Rose. You know, she needs to look the part. Like she can break necks with her bare hands, you know, a heartbreaker and a life taker, to quote Gunnery Sergeant Highway on that. Okay, so here, and I made this figure here pink, so when I draw over it, I can see where the base figure is and all that. It doesn't exactly match up. It still looks a little thin to me, right? So I wanted to bulk her up a little bit. I also wanted to do some rough weapons that she might do. So dual wielding warrior, wielding sword, wielding mace. And as you can see in the original designs here, I started, you know, throwing in some ideas for some spikes on the mace and all that. And I wanted to wait. I didn't want this to be the spiky warrior, right? This is the Iron Rose, a noble knight with a heavy rose motif. I'm going to do the spikes, but I'm going to save that for another warrior, the Iron Maiden, or the Iron Matron, whatever we want to call her, right? Okay, so we got the rose motif going here. As you can see, it's still rough, but now this is where we start to, let me get rid of that. So I have a more faded version so I can do the cleaner lines on top of that. So as you can see, this is the cleaner version. We've reinforced the rose designs on the pauldrons, on you know, her I don't know what I always call it, the WWF belt buckle, on the knee pads and all that. And this I did a real quick side design of her sabatons, which are the, you know, the armored boots. And you know, it's like, oh, why is she wearing high heels? I go, because that looks cool. That's why I did it. And let's see. So from there, we are going to go to, okay, there's the final lines, or the mostly final lines. Okay. And so here is the cleaned up final lines, as you can see, right? So that's Iron Rose right there. Nice clean lines. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to, like in our previous videos, so I just copied this one 3 times, and I wanted to show the strength of just how color can change the tone of a character, right? So here's the main ones. The main concept for Iron Rose is on the right side with the grays and the reds and the golds and the pinks. But I also wanted to show you just how you can change the colors to make it feel like an entirely different character. So the one on the left here, you know, it's more of like a younger warrior, a young maiden, right? A new warrior, springtime colors. You know, this one here looks more dark and brooding. Maybe, you know, it's an older version. The years of warfare have hardened her. And, you know, she's dyed her hair black because she's vain and starting to go gray. I don't know. I could have gone with white, but then to me, that immediately takes it out of the human realm and into like a Death Knight realm. And I didn't want to do a Death Knight. We're showing a knight. Plus, I thought this looked cool, you know. So we have like kind of the springtime colors here on the left. We have the more of the dark winter vibe here in the middle. And then the base colors on the base rosy, I don't know, it's more like maybe summer and fall colors. You know, it's kind of like that old, what was it, the Greek mythology with Hecate, or the Norns, or I know the Norns are Scandinavian, the Fates. I can't remember the exact reference, but it's like the maiden, the mother, and the crone, right? Oh, again, metal alert number 2. Sorry, Maiden, Mother, and Crone is a great song by the metal band The Sword. So it's like metal that's in the vein of Sabbath, bands like Saint Vitus, and it, you know, they get a little bit more proggy as their albums, you know, go up. And check them out, The Sword. Okay. So what I did here now is I also decided to go in and put the shadow layer. So as you can see, each of the shadow layers has also a different tone. Now you can go in with each of these areas and make like the shadow layer on the face different, on the armor different, on the cloth different. You can do all that. I just decided to keep it simple and just sort of change the hue of it. So this one has more golden shadows. This one's more, you know, violet, and then these ones are more blues. So let me put the colors back on there. And then I went through with my shine layer, as I call it, which is just a layer in Photoshop, overlay layer. And that highlights the areas where it adds a little bit more shine. So it adds a little bit more depth, a little bit more 3D to it. And then I add the final layer, the spot layer, which just adds those little layers that, you know, pop a little bit and stuff like that. So now you could stop here. This is perfect for, so say as an art director, I could give this to one of the artists, and that's enough info for them to start modeling the character, whether it's a character or a skin variation, or, you know, whatever. That should be enough information. And you could also add references. I didn't include it in this, sorry. But like you could add like gold cups or filigree pictures, you know, from real world to show the types of shine the gold will have. Or you could, you know, for her leggings or pants, you could put various leathers, things like that to show the type of texture on the pants. And in my opinion, I think if the artist wants to do that, that's fine for them. Like let them do that. Let them have some input. We can hash all that out as we go, as the figure moves on. And like I mentioned before too, there's no back shot on this. Why? Well, let's let the artist come up with that. It's, the back armor, if you're looking at the hips here, let me zoom in, sorry. These are just reflective on the other side. It's the exact same thing. Now the inside of the hands would be different, and maybe the way some of the things go together, but that's fine. I'm comfortable with the artist working that out and doing that, because these are just concepts, right? There's probably no way this exact concept would work as a model. The artist would have to, push it so there's no clipping or not egregious clipping. So it's the concept is just that, the concept. It's not like, the law, the 10 commandments, again, specific characters, if they're important to the story or, integral, like main characters, maybe you do a few more iterations and you show those back shots, you do stuff like that. But when it's just a character that you're creating, create the artwork and then let the artist come up with, how things will work, right? And artists are different. Some artists like more information, like they want it to be the assembly line. They want all the art. They can just create the art and boom, it's done. And then some artists like to have a little bit more creativity, right? So some are fine, walking that illustrated path and figuring things out, and some want that path to be laid out for them, exactly. So depending on the artist who's going to be creating this, modeling it or animating it, you might need more or maybe even less artwork. So there we go with the variations, and really, like, look how different these characters look with just a color scheme. That's with no artwork changed. And imagine how cool that's going to look if you were to change, excuse me, the flower designs, or, you were going to change the headdress, or, the various pauldrons and things like that. You can really get a lot of change with just small artistic differences. All right, so we are going to continue on. We have decided that we want to do a pose. And we are going to, oh, actually, you know what? Before I move on to the pose, I'm sorry, let me show you how the weapons evolved. So here was first the rough drawings of Rosie's weapons. A sword with sort of a, I don't know the exact name of the sword, but it's almost like the basket thing, past pommel, whatever. No, the pommel's the bottom. The hilt? Yeah, basket hilt. I know that's not the right one. People out there, medieval scholars, let me know what type of sword this is. So from there, I did a more rough version, fleshed it out a little bit, didn't change too much, but wanted to make the things a little bit more unique, a little bit more fancy. So you see like the little leaf motif of the roses popping off. I flared out the rose a bit on the mace part. So, excuse me, soda water break. There, now my voice is not going to be creaking and croaking into your ear holes. And then here we have the final clean lines of it, right? And the reason why I have two of the same here is because, boom, we're dropping in some colors. And I'm just taking the same colors that Rosie had, and I'm incorporating that into her weaponry. Now, they could be different colors and all that, but in the immortal words, or was the acronym KISS, keep it super simple. I know there's a different one for that, but we're trying to be positive. So with that, I added the shadow layer, if you want to see that, boom. And then I added shines. So it kind of gives a little bit more of a 3D rendering to the weapons, so the modeler will know what to do. So let's remove our weapons now and start with the pose. So here is a rough pose I did for Iron Rose here. And so that's kind of clipping off, that's fine. So again, it's the same process, right? I start with a rough pose, and then I do a little bit more finished artwork on it, even though it's not by any means finished. And the reason why I want to do a pose, like I could have just stopped at the front view, if I was a game developer here, but because I'm doing this for, I want to make artwork and things like that. I in the last video, I told you I wanted to do a book called Saturday Nights or 30 Days of Nights, where I can show this art. And again, it's funny because there's dozens of ideas like this that pop up all the time. And who knows which ones are going to see the light of day, or if it's just something that's fun to talk about, right? So I don't know if you can see it in the final designs. So here, even on the pose, let me see if we can get something a little bit more that you can see. So I started doing, I didn't do it on the front view, but I started doing like a quick rose design or a motif on her hips. Rose hips. My gamer dev, kicked in though. And I thought it might make, her character too busy from, so say the top down or the 3/4 view, or, too messy. And I wish I would have put this design in the final one. And I'll probably go back later and put it in. But I got to get out of that mentality of, being a game developer and get back to this is for purely artistic purposes. See, the rose motif is gone. And if I took something that was like sort of on her WWF buckle or her knee pads, I could put that right there and it probably wouldn't be too busy. But it's also, like even with this pose to me is still kind of stiff and boring. And I'm not used to pushing the poses like I used to. And I would draw them more for someone who was going to be modeling the artwork or things like that. So I need to sort of keep working on that and getting out of that mentality. But I mean, either way, I'm having so much fun drawing. I'm walking that illustrated path. Journeyman Samwise is going to be learning along the way. Speaking of myself in third person, arrogance. Okay, so as you can see here, between this one and this one, I changed the pose of the leg. I didn't like this one. It was looking a little too weird for me. So I went and I turned the leg around, had the foot going more forward. And then here is a more, clean line version, and I've also added, let me go here, some face. This was the first face up here, just kind of plain and boring. She wasn't angry or smiling or frowning or nothing. And I did this one, which looked pretty, but I don't like smirks on characters. Smirks to me mean you're a bad guy or you're a snarky antagonist or something like that. That doesn't fit, the personality of Iron Rose. So we didn't do the smirk. We did a little bit more of a grimace, a little bit more of an arched eyebrow kind of thing, and something that's just a bit more in character with her and not like a smirky person who is, gonna taunt you and all that. No, Iron Rosie wades into the battle. So we did here we go, royal we again. I did now the shadow layer, right? And just did some rough shadows and kind of blended it so it wasn't too razor sharp edges, kind of like how the anime has like the more straight kind of edges. I wanted to blend it a little bit so it didn't look too cartoony, but I also didn't want to over render it where it felt like it was trying to be a more finished piece. Now, this is something I don't normally do. This is another shadow layer I added just to give a little bit more depth. I didn't want to chance ruining the base shadow layer, which was here, because I wanted to keep that still kind of clean, pseudo cartoony kind of rendering. But I also wanted to add a little bit more roundness. So I just basically would darken some of the areas. I'd add a little bit more shade, but I kept it soft and sort of fuzzy, kind of like my hairstyle. Let me show you. So here is the color layer. This is the same colors as the previous one. So wow, that looks like really bright and saturated compared to the other one. Okay, so here is with the shadow layer added. So that kind of tones it down a little bit. And then when I add that faded shadow layer, it adds just a touch more of, I don't know, roundness to the weapon, a little bit more depth to the back arm there. And then I also added a tint layer. Let's see if you guys can see. It's basically, it just kind of warms up some of the areas where I wanted to. Just make it warm. Like I want Iron Rose to feel warm in all aspects, right? Like she's got the red flowing hair. That's orange hair, but with the the red scarf and the purple, and I even wanted some of the grays in the metal, even though the shadows are more blue, right? I wanted the metal itself to feel a little bit warmer. So here, this is where I add the shine layer, and normally with the shine, I'll just do white, and it's an overlay layer, so it usually will just brighten up whatever's beneath it. So having the white, it picks up on the tint of the pinkish color or the yellow color, stuff like that. I added a little bit of color to it. So the yellows, or the shines on the knee pads have a little yellow. The shines on the metal have a little bit of pink or red. And it's not correct. Like I could go in and spend time to really make it, but I just wanted to get that tone, that feeling. Like remember when I was talking about the artists finding different metal vases or cups or filigree on something to show the levels of shine. I also wanted to have the metal have a little bit of that reflective light with some of the pinks from the rose and the reds from the cloak and stuff like that. But I thought it looked nice. So here is the spot layer where we just put in little highlights. So as you can see, it's just adding little bits of pop and shine to show that the metal is shinier than, say the scarf and all that sort of thing. He's going back. And then I just threw in a quick little ground shadow. And so from there, I combined all the images, and that's the Iron Rose, one of my old fallen D&D characters. But she was super fun to draw, and she feels like a powerful warrior, but still has, this nice feminine allure about her. She's not the Brienne of Tarth, right? Who is a cool character, but it just looks very militaristic and, bare knuckles, all that. I wanted this to feel like a knightly sort of character with all the flash and flare that, normal knights would have. And then after that, the last thing to do is add the signature. So as you can see, I included some of the face variations, even though the smirk is never going to happen. Her weapon designs, a front view of a character, and then kind of one in the pose that, sets the tone a little bit, but also doesn't take away from the modeler, so he can see what the character is. And it adds a little bit more of the 3D dimensions to it, so he knows how to model it. Now, this may not be the best way for an art director to give an artist something to model, but this is what I did for, decades. Well, maybe not decades, but definitely dozens of years. I guess that would be decades too. But this is what I did, and it really shows you the strength of having great artists on the team, because I have literally drawn on sticky tablets just a POS, that's piece of, got to keep it clean for the kids. Roman's kids are watching. Sorry, kids. If you have really good artists and strong artists on your team, you can give them barely anything to work with, and they will make something majestic out of it. So the more information you can give them, the better. But sometimes, if you got a great art team, they can take some of the roughest designs and just turn that into magic. So that is the end of this video, Panda Wands. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked this rambling walkthrough of Iron Rosie. It's about 5 minutes shorter than the previous one, so I thought I'd give you all a break. So, well, as we end all these videos, Panda Wands, remember your ABCs. Always be creating. Till next time, hail!